This is the story of a boy who works as an office worker. One night, on his way home, when he was crossing the street, he was hit by a truck, so he ended up isekai'd. We see how he is reborn in another world and was rescued by someone. Later on, we see that he has grown up and knows how to use magic to get food. His name is Shin Wolford, and he is currently 8 years old. He lives in the forest with his grandfather. Shin has memories of his past life, but he doesn't remember how he died. When we arrive home, we meet his grandfather, Merlin Wolford. Shin knows that he was the only survivor when a carriage was attacked by a demon, so Merlin rescued him and raised him. Shin knows magic because his grandfather taught him. Shin is grateful that as far as he knows, in this world, magic is without chant. Merlin tells him that he must not only learn magic, but also study magical equipment and swordsmanship. Later on, we meet Melita, a friend of Merlin's, who also often comes to visit. She is furious because she thinks it is dangerous for Shin to hunt wild boar at his young age. 2 years later, Merlin tells Shin that it's time for him to hunt a demon. Along the way, Merlin tells that a long time ago, a human turned it into a demon and nearly destroyed a nation. But Merlin rescued them and is now considered a hero in that land. Merlin then teaches Shin how to extend his magical power to track everything around him. Shin does so without a problem and detects a sinister magical power, that's right, a demon. Reaching towards the demon, Shin ignores Merlin's warnings and launches himself straight at the demon. However, he manages to defeat it without any problem, which surprised Merlin quite a bit. In the evening, Merlin tells everyone about Shin's feat of defeating a demon. Melita suspects that Shin is so good at magic because perhaps he comes from another world. Be that as it may, Merlin sees him as a grandson, and so does Melita, and the next day, we see that Shin trains fencing with Michel. Merlin then speaks to Shin alone and reveals something he already knew, that he is not his real grandfather, and tells him how he rescued him. Shin asks if perhaps the demon that attacked the carriage on that occasion is the same one he has just defeated. Shin asks about his parents, but Merlin has never found out who they are. Then Shin lets him know that he is happy to have him as a grandfather, Melita, and also Michel, which makes Merlin cry with happiness. 5 years later, we see everyone gathered to celebrate Shin's 15th birthday. This blonde gentleman asks Shin if there is anything he wants to do now. He mentions that he has never left the forest before. Then we meet Christina and Siegfried, who tell him that maybe he could become a demon hunter. Tom, a shopkeeper, mentions the Society of Demon Hunters, shortly after which they realize that Shin has never been shopping. Merlin holds his hands to his head, admitting that he forgot to teach Shin the common practices. In short, Shin learned nothing but magic. After that, they go to the desert. Thanks to Shin's original spell, Merlin tells Shin to show them all a spell, as if it were a final exam. Then, Shin prepares to cast a powerful spell, letting out blue flames. That powerful spell destroys a mountain. Everyone is shocked, and Melita scolds Merlin for not teaching Shin caution. Now they are not so sure about sending him to the outside world, as he has very destructive magic, which is likely to cause conflict. Shin's abilities are enough to upset the balance of power, so Mr. Blondie comes up with an idea: enroll Shin in the Magic Academy. Shin thinks it's a good idea. Then we find out that the blonde guy is called Decium von Earlshide, the king of the kingdom of Earlshide. Shin is surprised and also learns that Christina is a knight of the king and Siegfried a court magician. As for Michel, he used to be a knight commander of the order. Then Decium tells the story of how Merlin defeated a demonized person. That incident happened in his country. At that time, everything seemed to be over, and just when the demon was about to finish Decium, Merlin and Melita appeared to save him. Melita was also very strong, to the point where she was also considered a national heroine after that. It is worth noting that Christina reveals that Melita and Merlin were previously husband and wife. Half a month later, we see the three of them on their way to the capital. Shin is curious about how big Merlin's house is. When they arrive, people come running to realize that it is Melita and Merlin, the latter taking the opportunity to introduce Shin as his grandson. Arriving at the house, they are very well received. There are butlers and so on. Then Merlin tells Shin to go and look around the city while he and Melita handle things. We see Shin walking through the city, making the first purchase of his life, an apple. Then he comes to an alley where a girl is being harassed. Shin defeats the thugs and makes sure the girl isn't hurt, and soon after, this blue-haired girl appears, leaving Shin's mouth agape at how pretty she is. The red-haired girl is called Maria, and the other one Sicilian. Maria regrets not being able to use magic, because if she had been able to do so, she would have beaten those guys herself. Both Maria and Sicilian want to enter the Magic Academy, so they will be taking the entrance exam next month. Shin reveals to them that he also wants to enter. Maria is surprised, because when she saw Shin's movements, she thought he was a knight and not a magician. Everyone hopes to do their best in the entrance exam, but Sicilian feels embarrassed at having to shake Shin's hand. Maria tells him about Merlin and Melita being in the city, but Shin pretends not to know anything about it because he doesn't want to tell them that he knows them. Maria knows that Merlin and Melita's grandson is about to enter the academy, so she wonders what he will be like. When Shin leaves, Maria teases Sicilian a little, as she had fallen in love at first sight with Shin. Days later, the entrance exam arrives, where he earns the enmity of this fellow named Kurt, heir to Count Rietsberg. But Kurt is scolded by August, Decium's son. August introduces himself to Shin, who is surprised that he is the son of his uncle Decium, so although not by blood, they are cousins. From a distance, Maria and Sicilian wondered why Shin was talking so casually with August, since he's the prince. We see the first part of the exam, the written part, then we go to the next part, where they test the skills. Here, Shin is embarrassed to see how the aspirants conjure their spells, and when it is Shin's turn, the instructor tells him that she has heard of him, and asks him to keep his power under control. Shin holds back, at least a little. The next day, the results of the exam are published, in which Shin comes first. Shin is awarded his uniforms and books. His uniform has been enchanted with defensive magic. As Shin came first in the exam, he is asked to give a speech to the new students at the entrance ceremony. He refuses, claiming that this year they have August, but the latter says that at the Earlshide Magic Academy, having the top score obliges him to make the speech. After that, we see that Maria and Sicilian learn the results of the test and recognize that not only Shin's swordsmanship is good, but also his magic. Maria asks Sicilian if she doesn't want to go and talk to Shin, but Sicilian doesn't even know what she would say. Later, we see Kurt complaining about being A-class and not S-class like Shin. Kurt is sure that Shin cheated, so he wants revenge. After that, we see that Shin modifies the protective spells on his academy uniform, something he had been told not to do. When he finishes, he goes excitedly to show Melita the result. The next day, it's the entrance ceremony. As they get out of the carriage, Melita tells Shin to remember not to tell anyone about the modifications to his uniform. August asks Shin if he is not nervous, as all the nobility of the country will be present. Later, it is time for Shin to give the speech, when Maria and Sicilian learn that he is Merlin's grandson. As Shin gives the speech, this is Kurt's face. What's the problem with this guy? From there, we go to Classroom S, where the teacher, Alfred, welcomes them. Later, Maria wants to talk to Shin. To tell him that Sicilian has a stalker, the stalker uses the power of his family to threaten her. Moments later, we learn that this stalker is none other than Kurt. This provokes an argument. Shin calms Sicilian down and tells her that no matter what happens, he will protect her. Sicilian plucks up the courage to reject Kurt once again. Then, this jerk threatens to get her father fired from his job. August appears to bring order as prince and makes him leave. August mocks Shin a little for acting like this to defend Sicilian. Judging by the look on Kurt's face, it's obvious that this isn't over, so Shin invites them to his house. August will bring his bodyguards, Julius and Thor. At home, Shin introduces his friends and tells about Sicilian's situation. His intention is to modify the protective spells on Sicilian's uniform to protect her from Kurt. Melita reveals that this would make Sicilian's uniform a national treasure level item. Sicilian tries to refuse, which makes Melita understand that she is honest and deserving of protection. Decium asks Shin never to reveal that he can create objects of the national treasure level, or he might provoke a war between kingdoms, although he asks for uniforms for August, Julius, and Thor. As for Maria, she refused to have one. Shin offers to take them all home using his teleportation spell, a spell that was also to remain a secret. Shin accompanies Sicilian to school, while at the same time using his magic to detect nearby presences. Sicilian apologizes to him for being a nuisance, but with his seductive face he tells her that he can't let her be in danger. When we arrive at the academy, we meet this girl called Alice. After that, the teacher gives them a quick tour of the school. In the midst of that, he tells them about the clubs. There is the Magic Attack Study Group, the Quality of Life Study Group, the Body Language Study Group. One of August's bodyguards would like to join the Body Language Club, but his duty to protect the prince does not allow it. Although August tells him that at the academy he doesn't need to be followed everywhere, but Shin knows that August just hates being escorted and wants space. As Shin doesn't want to join any clubs, August suggests that he create one of his own, which the whole class wants to join. And thus, the Ultimate Magic Study Group is born. On the other hand, we see the Lyceum Council, who are gathered together talking about how there have been many sightings of demons lately, so the king orders that the Society of Demon Hunters be enlisted to investigate thoroughly. From there, we go to the Reincarnates estate, where Kurt's father angrily tells his son that he has received a summons, then scolds him for his bad behavior at the academy. Kurt believes that they are superior to everyone else and does not see it right that they should be treated on the same level as commoners. Kurt believes that he is a special person, a chosen one. He mentions that everything started to go wrong for him after Shin showed up, but his father beats him and then tells him he will punish him, so he has him locked in his room, while he wonders what is going on with his son's recent behavior. The next day, Shin and the others hear about Kurt's punishment. Shin takes the opportunity to ask about Kurt's attitude. August's bodyguards, who went to the same school as Kurt, don't understand his behavior either, as he wasn't like that before. They mention that Kurt started acting differently after he started going to the laboratory of Strum, a blind professor who came after being exiled from another realm. Strum invited many people to his lab, but August and company thought it was strange, so they turned him down. And speaking of this Strum guy, he went to visit Kurt. His mother is desperate because she doesn't know what's going on with her son. Strum says he will talk to Kurt since he was his teacher, so he goes to see him and casts a spell on him, but not before telling him that he wants him to teach a lesson to the one who is being a hindrance, Shin. This guy is no good at all. After leaving Kurt's house, he says he wants Kurt to serve him as much as he can. Later, Shin accidentally reveals another secret, telling his friends that he killed a demon when he was only 10 years old. After that, we see that Shin senses the presence of a demon and is surprised to realize that it is Kurt. Without words, Kurt attacks everyone. Shin stands in the way while asking Sicilian to channel magical energy into the uniforms. Shin stopped the attack, but his hands were injured, but no problem. He has already set his healing in motion. Kurt is completely out of control and transforms further into a demonized form. Shin asks August to get everyone out of there, while he takes care of Kurt, as he can't let a demonoid be unleashed on the capital. August takes heed and everyone flees. While Shin begins to fight Kurt, he realizes that despite being demonized, he is able to speak. This means that he is not yet a full demonoid, so Shin will try to control the magic that demonizes Kurt in order to save him. Kurt begins to build up magical power to cause an explosion, so in a desperate act, Shin draws his sword and ends up killing him. Sicilian and the others return. Shin feels guilty about having to end Kurt's life. August warns him that destroying a demonoid will make him famous and complicate his life in the near future. For Strum, the experiment was a success, but now he has his eyes on Shin. As for him, he asks if it is really that simple to become a demon. He remembers Merlin telling him that demons lose all sense of reason and are unable to speak. But Kurt could do it. Plus, he was not strong, leading Shin to suspect that Kurt was the victim of some kind of human experimentation. Later, they meet Decium, and it is revealed that Shin will be awarded a medal for his actions. Merlin reminds Decium that he said he would not use Shin for political purposes, but Decium remembers the time that demon appeared and the kingdom was nearly wiped out. That threat has come once again and the whole population knows it, so it's the best that the matter is made public. Merlin understands this, but does not know the significance of the award. Decium tells him that it is because Shin has achieved the same feat as Merlin and Melita. Decium again makes it clear that he will do everything he can to prevent Shin from being exploited. Merlin accepts, but makes it clear that if he breaks his word, they will leave the kingdom immediately. The next morning, we realize that Shin is now very famous, especially among the girls, who whisper that maybe Sicilian is his fiancée. Shin apologizes for this, but Sicilian has no problem. She is with him on her own initiative. Shin's fame has reached the point where all the students want to be part of his club, forcing the teachers to put them to the test in order to maintain a manageable number of members. Decium meets with his council to discuss what is happening and orders a full investigation. Back at the academy, 2 students manage to join Shin's group: Mark, the son of a blacksmith, and Olivia, the daughter of a restaurant owner. Shin asks Mark for help to improve his sword and better manage his spells. Back at the Reincarnates house, the security office investigates, and they learn that Kurt was visited by a teacher the day he became a demon. For this reason, they went directly to Strum for questioning. One of the investigators suspected that Strum might be using his magic to replace his sight. When asked what happened to his eyes, he tells them that he was born into a noble family in the Empire, but was defeated in a power struggle over family leadership. That is why he ended up in exile, and lost his eyes when one of his relatives wanted to kill him. The researchers tell him about what happened with Kurt, and he says that all the students who were part of his group improved a lot. Strum says he regrets what happened to Kurt. The investigators ask for his help in examining Kurt's body. In the cafeteria, Shin is lost in thought as he ponders how to improve his sword. He wants a sword that has a thin blade but a longer life. It might be better to buy a new one once it breaks, but their grandparents don't give him so much money, so he knows the value of it. This guy tells him that it might be a good idea to make the blades replaceable. Mark thinks it's a great idea and wants to try it right away. Back with the security forces, they realize something, and that is that they never revealed Kurt's name when they spoke to Strum, and Strum already knew it. So being the prime suspect, he was set up. Strum has nothing to hide and laughs, admitting that Kurt was one of his experiments. Now that he has completed all his experiments in the capital, Strum is trying to escape. He destroys part of the castle. Shin and the others were passing through, so he confronts him. Shin launches a powerful attack that shatters Strum's mask, and it is revealed that he has red eyes. He is actually a demon with reason. Shin casts a heat ray spell so hot that it turns the sand floor to glass, leaving him unable to tell whether Strum escaped or disintegrated. The Decium Council congratulates him on his victory, and although he tries to explain his heat ray spell, they have no idea what he is talking about. Then we see that Strum managed to escape, very narrowly, but he did, and it is now clear to him that Shin is dangerous. Unnecessary fact, but bidets also exist in this world. After learning this, Melita calls Maria to ask her what she thinks about Sicilian and Shin. She replies that they are in love with each other, but Sicilian has not realized this. She has had boys proposing to her all her life, but she has never accepted anyone, so she doesn't know how she feels. In short, Shin is her first love. Later, we see Shin worried, because he knows that Strum is probably still alive. What makes him suspect this is that there was an unusual explosion when he used his spell. August tells Shin that when they arrive at the smithy, he can ask for whatever he wants, as the royal family will pay for it. August knows that Shin is the only one who can fight on equal terms against Strum. They finally arrive at Mark's father's blacksmith shop. August tells him that he wants a new weapon for Shin. He was already on his knees when he heard that he was receiving the prince, but he was also surprised to be in front of Shin. Later, we see that the king of Bluesfia learns from his spy Zest that Earlsheed is being beset by demons, so he plans to invade. Back with the boys, Shin finds out that they are selling more accessories, so he wants to buy something for Sicilian, which she is very excited about. Shin was thinking of buying her something with defensive magic, which angers the others as it's the perfect opportunity to do something romantic. Inside the jewelry shop, Shin chooses for her the ring he will give her, then puts it on and takes her hand, telling her that the ring will keep her safe. Days later, the royal award ceremony arrives. Shin is very well received, and King Decium awards him the medal. He then gives a speech in front of everyone, promising once again that Shin will never be used in politics or war. Shin was about to leave, but the crowd wouldn't let him pass, so he uses his teleportation magic, but his other friends arrive. Shin begins to think that it would be a good idea to organize a training camp for his friends, so he has decided to help them level up. Then, as a way of teaching them or showing off a little, Shin demonstrates some of the magical power he possesses, overwhelming everyone, telling them that with that in mind, they will practice magical control every day. We now return to the Empire of Bluesfia, where we learn that Strum and his subordinate, Miria, are secretly manipulating the king. Using his teleportation, Shin takes his friends to his house, where the newest members of the group are inspired when Merlin tells them that it is possible to learn Shin's spells, showing that he is now able to use his teleportation spell. Later, Melita talks to Merlin and understands that he learned to use Shin's magic for his own good, because if he does this, Shin's magic will not be considered abnormal. The next day, Shin goes to pick up his new sword, which has a detachable blade so that it can be replaced in case it breaks. August wonders if the design can be used by the military to reduce costs, especially with the war against Bluesfia approaching. Despite Decium's promise, Shin decides that he will join the war if necessary to protect them all. King Decium is informed that Bluesfia's army is beginning to advance, so Decium orders all forces into action. We go to the base camp of the Bluesfia Empire, where we learn that Earlsheid's troops were victorious. After that, the king of Bluesfia is informed that demons are appearing en masse in the capital. For that reason, Bluesfia began to withdraw its troops to protect itself from the demons. Earlsheid's forces are informed that while fighting, they were attacked by demons, and the demons themselves are blocking the road. They wonder if the demons are helping Bluesfia's retreat, but I don't think so, as we now see the demons sweeping over everything. Strum was with Miria, and happy with what he has done. He asks her how it feels to be a demon. She replies that it feels good, as she has more power than ever. In the imperial castle of Bluesfia, several days later, the capital has already been devastated. Furthermore, the king is greeted by Strum, who has no more use for the king, so he finishes him off. Strum reveals that he has an army of demons and passes a message to the Decium Council to warn them that he has destroyed Blusphia. Several days later at Earlshide Castle, they learn that Strom is still alive. Earlshide's forces were right to withdraw. Decium declares that the Academy students must train alongside the students of the Knights Military Institute, which upsets everyone, as the Knights students are notorious bullies. Shin has no problems, as he had been trained by Michelle, who used to be one. The students are surprised to learn that Shin trained with Michelle, as he was the former Knight Commander of the Order. Merlin taught him magic, Melita to enchant items, and Michelle the sword. Yes, quite lucky. Outside the capital's gate, we see the students gathering. Sicilian is worried about fighting the demons, but being with Shin reassures her. Shin tells her that it will only be a training session. On the other hand, we see several knights who already have their eye on Shin. Later, these knights introduce themselves. They are Kreis, Miranda, Nun, and Kent, and they will be Shin and company's group. Before starting, Shin asks them if they have fought a demon before. Miranda doesn't take it well and thinks Shin is showing off, but he clarifies the situation and tells her that if they are not prepared, they will die. Fed up with the knights' attitudes, August orders Shin to let the knights fight the demons without them. Later, Shin learns that his team's advisors are Siegfried and Christina. Later, they begin to go into the forest to begin training, and after encountering a boar demon, the knights are quickly defeated, forcing Shin to save them, defeating it in one blow. The knights realize how much they still have to learn, and how important the support of a magician is. Sicilian heals their wounds, which makes the three knights fall in love with her, provoking Shin's jealousy. August advises him to mark territory and say that Sicilian is his wife, but Shin is embarrassed by this. Maria gets jealous, but because unlike Sicilian, none of the boys are after her. But they must stop talking nonsense because more demons attack. Then Shin destroys them all with a massive explosion. This shocks everyone, who are now aware of the power of Merlin's grandson. Miranda approaches him and apologizes for having spoken ill of him before, and now recognizes the difference between levels. She also apologizes to Sicilian for lashing out at her boyfriend. This makes them both turn into tomatoes. The other guys realize that they don't stand a chance with Sicilian. The mages and knights continue to move forward, encountering demons along the way and defeating them, so they are learning to fight together. As for those who get hurt, Sicilian takes care of them. Siegfried asks Shin how he is doing at the academy. He replies that he is doing quite well, and that he has even created a training group, where Shin teaches them the things that Merlin taught him, and also taught them how to visualize when using magic. Siegfried is excited about this and wants to learn too, but August tells him to stop because he is with the military. To avoid conflicts leading to the destruction of humanity, August does not want Shin's magic to spread any further. Siegfried at least wants to know how Merlin made him practice, and August explains a little. The explanation is simple, but for a better understanding, August asks Sicilian and Maria to project magical barriers taught by Shin and Merlin. Siegfried compliments Maria on her magic, which makes her fall in love, and the exercise is over for them. But although they get along well, the rest of the teams don't. They have a terrible coordination, and they are barely saved. At the gateway to the capital, everyone gathers, and Shin finds out how the other teams fared. In front of everyone, August reveals that those who belong to the Ultimate Magic Study Group, other than Shin, will be placed under national supervision after graduation, and will most likely be placed in a special unit under August's control. Shin feels guilty about this, but the boys rejoice, claiming that their futures are now secure. August tells Shin that as long as they don't abuse their power, they could become the hope to save the world. Sicilian is sure that Shin will be that hope. Several days later, we see the magic training in a place Shin has used for a long time, a place where they will not be seen. At the end, August informs everyone that most of Blusphia has been destroyed and that many demonoids have been created from the inhabitants. August knows that it is Strum who is behind it all, so if that is the case, Shin decides that they will do a training camp during the summer holidays. Then Sicilian offers them to use her family's hot springs. Later, Shin tells this to his grandparents. Melita scolds him because he will have to supervise everyone in the camp. As the parents of the other members of the group are likely to be busy, Melita and Merlin insist on going as supervisors. Days later, the holiday begins. It will take 2 days to reach the camp area. The horses would surely die of exhaustion if they didn't have harnesses enchanted by Melita. On the way, they come across a group of demons, so they decide through a game who will fight. After defeating the demons, Merlin recognizes that the boys have greatly improved their skills. A day and a half later, they arrive in the town of Claude, where they go to Sicilian's house, Merlin and Melita are very well received, but the best received is Shin, who has wished a long life with Sicilian. At the hot spring, Merlin expresses his happiness that Shin has made such good male friends. Literally bro moment. On the other hand, Melita enjoys making the girls jealous of the size of her breasts. She is also happy that Shin now has friends. She also tells them that she and Merlin will train the club members to be as strong as possible. The next day, we see the group training with Merlin. He gives some advice to Thor and Sicilian. Later, we see Shin happy because thanks to the help of his grandparents, the camp is going much better than expected. Then we go to the magic practice with Shin. Melita acknowledges that the group is quite strong because they are using magic without chant. But Shin still believes that they will have a difficult time against the demons. And for that very reason, the overwhelming power of the demons forces Shin to become stronger. Everyone moves away from him, and rightly so, and then everyone protects themselves with magical barriers. Shin prepares to cast a spell. While the others brace for impact, Shin channels all the explosive magic and manages to make his spell even stronger. Then Melita scolds him for his recklessness. Thor is surprised that despite the strength of the spell, there was no shock. After the training continues, August asks Shin to stop by the castle to get information from the demons. When they get there, they meet Ellie, August's fiancée. Yes, neither we nor Shin knew that. Ellie introduces herself to Shin. She is the daughter of Duke Corral. There was also May, August's younger sister. They both complained because August did not take them to meet Melita. May introduces herself to Shin. She is a big fan of Melita. Then both Ellie and May decide that they will join the training camp. August warns them that they don't play games there, but Diceum has no problem with this. That said, they are both taken to the training site, after which Ellie admits that she had an ulterior motive for coming. Jealous that there are other girls? No. The one she is most suspicious of is Shin, since August keeps talking about him. August explains to her that she shouldn't feel jealous about that. Besides, Shin already has a girl. August warns Shin that now is a good time to set the record straight, and makes it clear that Sicilian likes him too. August warns Shin that unless he confesses to Sicilian soon, she may end up with someone else. After that, they start helping Shin to confess to Sicilian, and later May and Ellie meet Melita. For some reason, the conversation starts to turn to children, and Sicilian lets slip that her children with Shin will be adorable. When she realizes what she said, she turns as red as a tomato, and Shin realizes that August is right, so he goes after her. And alone, they start to talk a bit about the time they met. Then, Shin plucks up the courage and confesses his feelings for her. Sicilian is also happy about this, and confesses that she also likes him. Shin asks her to be his girlfriend, and they are about to kiss, but are interrupted when they realize that everyone is eavesdropping. But taking advantage of everyone being there, Shin formally tells them that he and Sicilian are boyfriend and girlfriend. August congratulates him, but reminds him that they are in a difficult situation, so they must not neglect training. The next day, Shin insists on training on the beach, using it as an excuse to play wizard volleyball. So we see how they have fun playing a somewhat unusual volleyball. Merlin takes the opportunity to give them a few tips. At night, they all start to remember their childhoods. Melita comes to tell them it's time to go to sleep, but they all hide. In an attempt to hide, Shin jumped onto Sicilian's bed and was touching her breasts. Her screams alerted Melita, who realized that everyone was still awake, so she scolds them. The next morning, we are shown that because of last night, Shin didn't sleep at all. He and Sicilian bump into each other before going to the dining room, and she tells him that she has a favor to ask him, which is that she asked him to talk to her parents. They are Eileen and Cecil. Shin cuts to the chase and tells that he is dating Sicilian. Cecil gets very excited and thanks him for choosing his daughter. As for Eileen, before accepting their relationship, she asks Shin if everything is all right. She tells that Sicilian belongs to a noble family, so if they are in a relationship, marriage must be compulsory. Eileen mentions that a viscount's daughter cannot be allowed to date without being betrothed, but Shin is more than prepared. That said, both of Sicilian's parents accept their relationship. Then we return to training, where Thor and Tony congratulate each other. Ellie wants to know what kind of magic they're using, and Shin tells her it's just the warm-up. Since she and May came to observe, Merlin offers them the chance to try it. Ellie refuses because she doesn't think she's talented at magic, but May wants to do it. Merlin teaches her basic magic control, and May proves that she has outstanding magic for her age. Not wanting to be outdone by May, this girl named Lynn wants to make an effort, but ends up with her hair in a mess. Melita tells them that they must work hard so that in the years ahead, May will surpass them in more ways than one. May hides behind Shin instead of hiding behind her own brother. And as a reminder that we still have a villain, we return to the imperial capital, where Strum and Miria are making their moves, this time attacking merchant caravans and disrupting the country's food supply. Back at training, the boys set up the barrier, as Shin is about to experiment with his magic again. Shin begins to accumulate a lot of magic, levitating the rock in his hand, which is how Shin invented floating magic. Having successfully tested it on the rock, it is enough to use the spell on itself, so he is now able to fly. May gets excited and wants to learn how to do it, but Maria tells her it's not a good idea. Later, Shin and Sicilian tell Merlin and Melida that they are now engaged. They agree, but before making this public, there is something they must do. So Melida wants to go to Sicilian's house, where it is revealed to them that Shin is not actually their biological grandson, but this matters little to Cecil and Eileen, who assure them that they accept Shin for who he is, not for his lineage. It's a very nice scene in which Shin once again takes the opportunity to thank Merlin for being his grandfather. Later, we see that Shin created more National Treasure-level clothing to protect the club members in the upcoming demon hunt. Shin tells everyone that he thinks they are ready to fight a catastrophic class demon. May feels left out, so Shin creates a magical device that will allow May to talk to them during the hunt. This infuriates Melida, because Shin has just created another device that disrupts society. Now we see Shin and the club members go into the forest, where they soon encounter a catastrophic class demon. It is a lion, and unlike the tiger demon, it is stronger but slower. Shin names the 5 who will go first, and I think they were left over, because in a single combined attack, they defeated the demon, leaving a large crater in the middle of the forest. The remaining 6 fought 1v1 against different demons, defeating them easily. After that, it's time for the party to announce Shin and Sicilian's engagement. Shin is amazed at how beautiful she looks. The two go out to be greeted by all, and even with the king present, they announce their engagement. Despite going through the formal engagement process, Shin waits until after the party to privately ask Sicilian to marry him, giving her a ring and kissing her for the first time. Later, we see that the rest of the group has learned to fly. May wants to learn it, and this time she came prepared. On the other hand, we see that Strum has finished the destruction of the Empire, the demon squad led by Zest has attacked the caravans and the wagons, and there are no more food supplies. While the nobility lived in luxury, the rate of resentment of the starving commoners increases, so Strum will demonize them, so that the commoners themselves will be the ones who will destroy the nobility. Miria mentions that Strum hates the imperial nobility, but by doing so, many commoners are also victims. Strum congratulates his army of demonized commoners for the work they are doing. With the empire overthrown, there is nothing to be done now. The demons insist on going on and conquering neighboring lands, but Strum does not have the same goal. He tells them that they are free to pursue their goals, but not to impose them on him. Miria asks him why he has so much animosity for the Empire, and mentions that she once heard that he was an imperial duke who was in line to be an emperor. Strum tells his story. At that time his name was Oliveira. He was a lord of the Empire, but he did not agree with the Empire having slaves, so he made the life of the commoners as prosperous as possible, like in the kingdom of Earlshide. Oliveira even had a wife who was pregnant, but the other lords of the Empire hated him, as most of the labor force moved to live on Strum's land, reducing the tax benefits. Therefore, King Geraldo framed Strum for kidnapping commoners living in his lands to sell them as slaves, using fake policemen who did not even consider commoners as people. One day, the fake policemen claimed that they had already found the person responsible for the kidnappings and falsely intercepted Oliveira's carriage with slaves. It got to the point that the angry commoners went to Oliveira's house with torches, setting it on fire. Oliveira was returning home, not knowing anything about what was going on, and by the time he arrived, his house was burnt down. When he saw the flames, he ran towards the house, but there was nothing there but the body of his wife, Aria, and some commoners accusing him of being a kidnapper. Oliveira told them that he would not act so foolishly if everything he was accused of had been true. They had used nobles to keep him in the capital, while at the same time doing all these things behind his back. Completely angry, Oliveira demonized himself and vowed to destroy Blusvia's empire, but once he has completed his goal, he feels he has no direction. As Strum needs a new target, Zest sent his subordinate, Lawrence, to convince the demonoids to attack the kingdom of Swede, a neighboring kingdom of Earlshide, in the hope that this will attract Shin and give Strum a target to destroy. Back to a less gloomy landscape, we see August appointed the official heir to Decium, and in front of his father, he vows to dedicate himself entirely to his nation. But this is interrupted when news reaches them that a group of demons have appeared in Swede's kingdom. Far from being angry at having the ceremony interrupted in this way, August is grateful for the information. August tells the villagers not to worry, as they have a group that has been preparing to fight the demons. He gives the floor to Shin and tells them that he took down the demonoid that appeared some time ago, as well as revealing that the whole group has been preparing to fight. Now, they will head to the Kingdom of Swede to wipe out the demonoids and reveal their uniforms. August tells Shin to speak up and think of a name for the group. The Avengers? No, the Ultimate Magicians. With that said, they set off for the realm of Swede. In the Kingdom of Swede, the knights receive a signal that demons will attack them, so they begin to alert the castle and evacuate the civilians. A group of about 100 demons arrive, and in view of the fact that they know it will be a problem, they will ask Earlshide for help. However, they fear that the request for help will take too long. Still, they defend themselves as best they can. On the other hand, we see Shin and the Ultimate Magicians flying towards Swede. On the way, they talk about the ridiculous name Shin chose, and quickly, they reach the border. Normally, it would have taken them days to arrive by carriage. August is glad to have arrived early because Shin's defensive magical equipment is strong, but not indestructible. Shin learns that August had many of them made and then lent them to Swede. Shin asks Sicilian to take care of the wounded, while the rest will take care of taking down demons. Seeing that practically everyone has a partner, Maria becomes jealous, then they arrive at Swede. Shin starts by saving a mother and daughter, then easily defeats that big-mouthed demonoid. Thor and Shin introduce themselves as reinforcements for the Kingdom of Earlshide, and speaking of that, August addresses the people of Swede to tell them that they have come to help and not to lose hope. The King of Swede rejoices at this. Shin tells Sicilian to tend to the wounded at the aid station. Before leaving, she asks him to be careful, while Lawrence looks out of the window at Shin. We see how the wizards fight the demons, and try to do so in a sensible way so as not to cause more destruction than there is already. Alice and Lynn take down several demons by themselves. On one such occasion, it is to save a knight. Thor and Julius fight their own battle and take the opportunity to ask them if they are doing this on Strom's orders. The demonoids refuse to talk, but Thor realizes that they are all commoners from the Empire of Blusfia. Thor asks them why they do this, and this demonoid replies that after being oppressed by the nobility and having everything taken away from them, all they could do was hate. Then we see Mark and Olivia defending the aid station, and inside, Sicilian was healing all the wounded. Shin was easily taking down all the demons that came his way. Lawrence continued to watch him and was amazed by his magical abilities, coming to believe that Shin did not have a weakness that Strom could exploit. August and Maria confront this demonoid called Fabro, and end up defeating him despite the fact that he uses defensive magic items stolen from Swede's people. With the King of Swede were Merlin and Melida, relieved that it looks as if they will not have to intervene. Nearby, Zest wonders if he should reconsider manipulating Strom to fight Shin, unsure if Strom would survive. Zest asks Miria to intervene, so we see her in action, while Strom, who knew about Zest's plan, decides to play along. We see Sicilian continuing to treat the wounded, then a woman begs her to heal her husband. Sicilian goes to see him, but the state he is in is not good at all, but Sicilian will try. On the other hand, we see that Shin senses an unusual magical power. As for Miria, she continues to wreak havoc, as she is very strong. Lynn and Alice appear to try to stop her, but although they surprise Miria a little with the way they use their spells, they are no match for her. Lawrence, taking advantage of Miria's distraction, knows that this is the opportunity to flee, and orders the demons to retreat. But there is no way Shin will let them escape so easily. He casts a powerful spell that wipes out several demons. The Ultimate Magicians try to rescue Alice, but Miria defeats them all with ease, so it's time for Shin to take action. Miria realizes that Lawrence was successful and managed to escape with some demonoids. Now she confronts Shin, but an oversight almost ends her life. She escapes, but for that, she causes an explosion. Although fortunately, the Ultimate Magicians group is fine. Shin apologizes for letting Miria escape. August wonders what the motive for this attack was, as he was unable to get a reading on Strom. Shin knows that Strom was not there, because if he had been, they would not have come out easily. Later, we see that Miria meets Lawrence and tells him that Zest wanted her to create an opportunity for them to escape. Even though they managed to pull out, Lawrence sees this as a defeat. We see that Strom was watching them and felt they were pathetic for pulling out like that. He acknowledges that after meeting his target he is bored, but believes Shin can change that. August and Shin arrive at where the wounded are being treated. Sicilian is unable to heal a man, even if she tries her best. But not to worry, because as usual, Shin comes up with a multi-step healing spell, saving the man's life and leaving August and us wondering just how powerful Shin will become. Sicilian feels useless, but Shin makes it clear to her that she is the reason this man is still alive, and not only this man, but all the other inhabitants of Swede. With all over, August tells the king what they know of Strum, and asks him to form an alliance with Earlsheed in case either kingdom is attacked. August and Shin decide to travel to as many kingdoms as possible to form alliances and make it possible for Shin to teleport to any kingdom under attack. August tells this to his father, and Decium is proud that his son intends to seek alliances with other kingdoms. Shin tells his grandparents that he too must go on this journey. They agree, and ask Shin to keep August safe. Ellie and May insist on going too, as do all the ultimate magicians, so in the end they all end up going. As for Strum, he is irritated that his subordinates have lost, but asks Miria to keep him informed as to whether their plan to conceive a baby together has succeeded. Zest does not know whether he should rejoice or fear that Strum has decided to make Shin's defeat his new purpose. Later, as Shin and the wizards depart for the next realm, Merlin and Melita realize that for once in a long time, they can completely relax. But they are surprised to realize that the ultimate magicians came back, as they plan to teleport back every night to save money on rent. And with that, the anime ends. Hey guys, remember that if you like this video, like and subscribe so that you don't miss any other recap.